When I say fresh, y'all say food. Fresh, fresh. When I say yes, y'all say you. Yes, yes. When I say will, y'all say be. Will. When I say much, y'all say healthier. Much. Make some noise.
So I got involved. My husband actually had met with Reverend Jeffrey, and I remember him coming home and telling me, yeah, Reverend Jeffrey has a farm. And I thought that was the craziest thing, honestly. Okay, this pastor at New Hope has a farm. The way I understand it was Reverend Jeffrey had a health issue that put him in the hospital. And during that time, he learned that a lot of what he was dealing with was because of what he was eating. And so when he got out the hospital, he decided, I need to do something, and we need to do something to affect people just like me. I think particularly African American families.
I'm from the farm in Louisiana, even though it's a different kind of farm than what I was accustomed to in Louisiana because there was sharecropping. He always wanted to do something like this, for the community, for the people, but it didn't hit him until he got sick and he just equated to not eating healthy. And so when he came out of the hospital, that's when he decided, this is what I wanted to do. Create some produce for people that's not able to buy healthy foods, because that's a real issue in the African American community, on high cholesterol, high blood pressure, diabetes, and heart trouble and all that kind of stuff. And so when he said that, I thought, oh my God, a farm? African American people don't farm as much, as you can tell, because we're from the farm. Most of us are from the farm. So it was hard work, and we didn't see the value of it then. All along, when I was in Louisiana, I didn't know I was eating organic food. But then when I came up here, and then I thought, okay, when I ate some of the greens from Clean Greens, because I never could get my greens cooked right. Never, because I never bought organic food. It was expensive. And when I ate those, I thought, dog, this is the taste I'm supposed to have here. It's a whole different taste. And I thought, it must be the water, or else I didn't know how to cook. Something I didn't know. It was something wrong with those, with the produce that I was eating. And I feel like this is a project that could really extend the service that all these people need. When I see the little old ladies coming up there with their cane, with this walking can and on walkers, and to pick the greens up, and they're so happy. It makes them really happy.
I come from a family of 16 children. It's a pretty big family. We grew up in an urban area, pretty poor. Very poor. My growing up poor gave me sort of a kinship with people who are poor. I never lost that connection. I guess I never really escaped that feeling. And that's a good thing, because that makes me understand and be very empathetic with people who are poor. That connection with Clean Greens has to do with food. I didn't make that connection until later in life. Most of the connections I made was with the injustice of it all. For most of my life, I was just outraged by the injustice of it all. Why a lot of people could be very, very rich, and then a lot of people could be very, very poor. And the injustice of it was just something I could never make sense out of. So I've spent the first part of my life talking about that injustice and talking about how the outside society should do something about it. And then I began to realize that even though it is still the responsibility of the outside society to do something about it, it is also the responsibility of people who are poor to understand that collectively they can do something about it themselves. So it's that collective sense of poor people coming together to do something about poverty that led me to trying to find vehicles that could help people use their collective strength to move toward doing something about the economic situation. And one of those vehicles ultimately became food. And there we have Clean Greens. The whole concept of food being an organizing principle is new to me. It came to me when I was very ill for a long time. It started me to thinking about the whole issue of food, not just for me to change my eating habits, but to talk about food as a means of bringing poor people together, help them to create collective power and collective economic strength. One day I was just sitting in my office and these farmers walked in with bags and bags of greens. We sat down with these farmers to discuss with them the possibility of a partnership. They were going to run the farm, we were going to promote it. After our partnership with these farmers dissolved, we decided to go plant the stuff ourselves. I have to give credit to Sail Till. Katie Pinky joined us. She brought out 15, 20 volunteers. In one day, we planted about 5 to 6 acres. And of course, then the trouble began because we had to keep it up. About the middle of September, we had enough crops to bring into the city and open a stand.
A lot of people don't even know what we do in this community yet. It's hard because you want to just go out there and say, everybody, look at this. The thing we're passionate about, which is seeing people in our community eating quality food, it comes through such a long process, and we got to be patient to do it.
The mission is promoting healthy eating through education of food justice in our communities, especially in this community, the Central District. And we do that by our giveaway program.
I guess the most gratifying thing about what we do is to see the kinds of people that just come in and volunteer on a day-to-day basis. And, I mean, we had people that come in every Saturday to help fill the CSA boxes. Many of the people I never met before in my life. I think it has, in many ways, changed my whole sense of community. Because before this, my sense of community was basically racially driven, and it was about helping African American people. It was very contextual, very narrow, and this experience has opened my awareness of the universality of benevolence and how people care. And I think one day we were out planting, but I looked up and I just saw children of all races and colors running around through the field. I saw mothers, I saw fathers planting, and nobody was looking at race, nobody was looking at gender. We were all just trying to get a job done, and we were all just family. And I think that's what the earth does. I think that the earth makes that happen, and I think food makes that happen. We have to get back to real community, and I think that the key to that is finding common ground, things that we do together. The way Clean Greens comes at that is through food. The people of this community support the farm, but there is a disconnect when it comes to actually being in the dirt, planting seeds, harvesting crops. And that disconnect comes as a result of the historical problem in our community. A lot of the people who we deal with come from the South. Now, even the younger people don't come from the South, but their grandmothers and their mothers came from the South. They told these kids a lot of horror stories. These are collective memories about a horror that people went through. And this horror, unfortunately, is connected to the land and to the earth. So the earth becomes the reminder of all of this collective memory. It's very difficult to get people to understand that the earth is not the enemy, and that you can't continue to allow your appreciation for the earth to be handicapped or to be imprisoned by the memory of how you were treated. Because if you do, what you do is you continue to give birth to generations of people who have disdain for the earth. I've seen people cringe at the thought of getting on their knees in the dirt and planting a seed. People telling us that they would never do that. They'll help in any way they can, but they will never be out in the field. I think that it's something that the inner city community, African community, has to address. This disdain for what happened to us and having the earth as a part of that psychological mindset, that mindset that makes us believe that the earth was complicit with what people were doing. The earth has nothing to do with it. The earth loves, and it is the source of all life. Our mission is to use food and the production of food as a means of empowering communities. And a part of doing that is to attack the virulent ambivalence that African Americans have toward the land and toward the growing of their own food. The way we succeed, I believe, is to actually demonstrate to them the benefits and the dignity. And I think if we demonstrate that to them successfully, I think that we will play our part in eliminating some of that ambivalence.
We had a presentation at the UW with some agricultural students, and Tommy spoke, and the professor asked the question, why is it that you don't see African Americans in the farming culture anymore, in the agricultural system? And he began to explain why.
This is my take on this now. You have the African American community, which is just about as urban as you can get. Then you've got Clean Greens Farm, which is in the rural area. Now, my opinion is farming as a whole was never very friendly to African American people, farming as a whole, because the fact that this is what we were brought here to do, is to work on these farms, sun up to sundown, no pay at all, never paid. And so that's the stress factor. And then when you get out of that situation, do you think you want to go back to that situation? So it's going to be a tough sell to African American people. So black people and agriculture are going to have to rebuild a relationship.
I think there is a great story to be told 10 years down the line. We could bring some new vibe around the importance of agriculture and see folks farming again. The farming in and of itself is a beautiful thing. It's just the way people were treated on the farm. It really has nothing to do with growing food. And we have to almost disconnect those two things and realize that growing food, we should be involved in that process.
I want this project to be very successful because I believe in what it stands for. And but the only thing is that we have some shortcomings that are going to be pretty tough to overcome. We've got 23 acres here, and we're only farming probably 7. And without the proper equipment, I can't see us doing any more than the 7. There's a lot of drawbacks, but I think we can overcome that. I think the farmer's going to succeed, and I think that it's going to be successful. The program, the CSA program, and the market program is going to be very successful.
Kicking new flavor in your ear. Fresh food, kicking flavor for your ear. We kicking new flavor for your ear. Fresh food, kicking flavor for your ear.